God angered by the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah. Imagine a city so steeped in sin that its very name becomes synonymous with immorality. What if I told you that ancient cities once faced divine wrath for their actions, leaving behind lessons that resonate even today? Join us as we uncover the shocking tale of Sodom and Gomorrah, where divine justice met human depravity in an unforgettable encounter. The tale of Sodom and Gomorrah is not just an ancient story, but a powerful lesson on morality and divine justice. This biblical narrative has fascinated scholars and believers alike, serving as a grim reminder of the consequences of sin and the importance of righteousness. The story begins with Abraham, a patriarch whose hospitality and righteousness set the stage for a divine encounter. One day, as Abraham sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day, he noticed 3 strangers approaching. Despite the scorching sun, Abraham hurried to greet them, bowing low as a sign of respect. He invited them to rest under the shade of a tree, offering water to wash their feet and food to refresh them. His eagerness to serve these visitors, whom he recognized as messengers from God, highlighted his commitment to hospitality, a key virtue in the ancient world. Abraham and his household quickly prepared a lavish meal for the guests. He ran to his wife Sarah, instructing her to bake bread from the finest flour. He then selected a tender calf from his herd and had it prepared for the meal, along with curds and milk. As the visitors dined, Abraham stood nearby, ready to attend to their needs. During the meal, one of the visitors made a startling prediction. Sarah, though well past the age of childbearing, would have a son within a year. Sarah, overhearing this from the tent, laughed in disbelief. The visitor, who was the Lord, questioned why she laughed and doubted his promise. He reaffirmed that nothing was too difficult for the Lord and that his word would come to pass. This exchange underscored the theme of divine power and the fulfillment of God's promises, even when they seemed impossible by human standards. After this encounter, the visitors set their sights on Sodom. The Lord pondered whether to reveal to Abraham his plans for the city. Recognizing Abraham's future role as the patriarch of a great nation, God chose to disclose his intentions. He explained that the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah was immense and that their sin was exceedingly grave. Therefore, he had come down to see if their actions warranted the destruction that had been reported. Sodom and Gomorrah, also known as the cities of the plain, are the source of the English terms sodomite, which is a derogatory term for men who practice homosexuality, sod, which is a British colloquial term for men who practice homosexuality, and sodomy, which is used in legal contexts to refer to anal or oral sex, especially homosexual, and bestiality under the term crimes against nature. The sins of Sodom were manifold and deeply offensive to God. While the Bible mentions several specific transgressions, they can be broadly categorized into areas of sexual immorality, inhospitality, pride, and injustice. The most notorious sin of Sodom was its rampant sexual immorality. This is starkly illustrated in the story of the angel's visit to Lot, Abraham's nephew, who lived in Sodom. When the angels arrived, Lot greeted them and insisted they stay at his home for the night. However, before they could rest, the men of Sodom surrounded Lot's house and demanded that he bring out his guests so they could sexually assault them. This blatant attempt at violating the divine messengers highlighted the depth of the city's moral decay and disregard for sacred boundaries. In stark contrast to Abraham's generous hospitality, the people of Sodom were inhospitable and cruel to strangers. The violent mob's demand to abuse Lot's guests underscored their lack of compassion and respect for others. In ancient cultures, hospitality was a sacred duty, and the failure to protect and care for guests was a severe breach of social and moral codes. According to the prophet Ezekiel, the people of Sodom were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned for the poor and needy. Ezekiel 16:49-50. Their wealth and abundance led to a sense of self-sufficiency and entitlement, blinding them to the needs of others. This prideful attitude further alienated them from the righteous path and drew God's ire. The society in Sodom was marked by lawlessness, where the strong preyed on the weak. The attempted assault on Lot's guests was not an isolated incident, but a reflection of a broader culture of violence and injustice. The city's inhabitants regularly exploited and oppressed the vulnerable, creating an environment where righteousness was scorned and wickedness celebrated. As the angels set out for Sodom, Abraham remained with the Lord, who had revealed his plan to judge the city. Concerned for the righteous who might live there, Abraham began to intercede on their behalf. He approached God with humility and respect, asking if he would spare the city if 50 righteous people could be found within it. God agreed, affirming that he would not destroy Sodom if 50 righteous individuals were present. Encouraged by this response, Abraham persisted, gradually lowering the number in his pleas. "What if there are only 45 righteous?" he asked. God again agreed to spare the city. Abraham continued this negotiation, reducing the number to 40, then 30, 20, and finally 10. Each time, God responded with mercy, promising to spare the city if even 10 righteous people could be found. God's willingness to spare the entire city for the sake of a few righteous individuals shows the immense value he places on righteousness. It also illustrates the principle that the presence of even a small number of virtuous people can have a protective effect on a community. Abraham's bold intercession demonstrates the power of prayer and advocacy. His willingness to stand in the gap for the people of Sodom, despite their wickedness, reflects a deep compassion and sense of justice. It also shows that God is open to dialogue and willing to consider mercy in response to sincere pleas. This narrative balances the themes of divine justice and mercy. While God is committed to judging sin and maintaining moral order, he is also compassionate and willing to relent if there is evidence of righteousness. This duality reflects the complexity of God's character and his desire for redemption rather than destruction. Despite Abraham's intercession, the situation in Sodom was dire. The angels, now in the city, encountered the depravity firsthand. Lot, recognizing their divine nature, urged them to stay with him, fearing for their safety in the public square. That night, the men of Sodom surrounded Lot's house, demanding that the visitors be brought out to them. Lot pleaded with the mob, offering his daughters instead, but the crowd was relentless. The angels intervened, striking the men with blindness to protect Lot and his family. They then urged Lot to gather his family and flee the city, for its destruction was imminent. Lot hesitated, but the angels seized his hand, along with his wife and daughters, and led them out of the city, instructing them not to look back. As Lot and his family fled, the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah, completely destroying them and everything in the plain, including all the inhabitants and the vegetation. Lot's wife, however, disobeyed the angel's warning and looked back at the city. She was turned into a pillar of salt, a stark reminder of the consequences of disobedience and longing for a sinful past. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a powerful narrative that shows the gravity of sin and the importance of righteousness. It highlights themes of hospitality, divine judgment, intercession, and the balance between justice and mercy. Abraham's encounter with the angels and his subsequent plea for the cities illustrate the value of compassion and the power of advocacy. This ancient tale serves as a timeless reminder of the perils of moral decay and the potential for redemption. It challenges us to examine our own lives and communities, striving to uphold virtues of hospitality, justice, and righteousness. As we reflect on the lessons of Sodom and Gomorrah, let us be inspired to act with integrity and compassion, seeking to be a positive influence in a world often marred by sin and injustice. Let us not forget the lessons of Sodom and Gomorrah. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Share this message with friends and family, spark discussions about its relevance, and commit to living a life that reflects these timeless values. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of a powerful biblical narrative. If you found this essay thought-provoking, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the stories that shape our understanding of morality and justice. Together, we can strive for a better, more righteous world.